What's up, Loc family? I'm back with another video, and this one I know is long awaited. I did a locks with curly ends video about a year ago, but figured I'd come back with another one because I have been getting questions, as well as give you guys a little update on where I am with my curly ends. So first things first is do not romanticize locks with curly ends. And I only say that because it's not for the weak. It's not for the weak because the early starter lock stages is crucial. It's tough, especially if you're trying to maintain your ends. So if you're locking your hair to lessen your maintenance, maybe curly ends isn't for you. I learned that the hard way because maintaining my hair less was one of the reasons why I chose to lock. Having curly ends and wanting to maintain your ends throughout your journey is going to require you to maintain at least once a week. So even when you're not getting a retwist, you want to be maintaining your curly ends. Maintaining for me consisted of leave-in conditioner and combing through the ends either with my fingers or a comb. I opted out of using a comb because I started to notice a lot of breakage. So I started just using my fingers to detangle, which takes a lot more time than using a comb. But for me, it was just a little bit more effective because I got less breakage. Like I said, it's not for the weak. Like, it's going to be time consuming, but it's worth it if this is the look that you want to achieve. Now, let me side note that and say that every curly ends journey is going to look different due to the different textures. Another thing is washing your starter locks when you're trying to maintain curly ends is stressful. It is stressful because, like I stated in the last video, when you're washing your hair, you're essentially helping the locking process because your hair is elongating when wet and shrinking back up when dry. So trying to wash your starter locks while trying to maintain your ends is going to stress you out. What helped me when washing my starter locks was detangling the ends before I wash my hair, and also not doing like a vigorous motion on the ends when washing. Really focusing on my scalp and my starter locks, and then when it came down to my ends, just being like very gentle. Now obviously your curly ends aren't always going to be stressful. For me, I noticed the more mature my locks became, the less I had to touch my ends. So I went from having to maintain every week to every 2 weeks to every retwist. So even when I wash now, I'm finding that I'm not having to take the steps that I used to take in the beginning. I no longer have to detangle before I wash and things like that. It's hard in the beginning, but it gets easier as your journey progresses, as your locks mature. So they definitely do start to train themselves in a sense. I obviously am still very gentle with my curly ends. I'm gentle with my hair, period. And what I mean by gentle is like I'm delicate with it. I don't do too many tough styles. I don't use a lot of products, so I feel like that helps. I do get a lot of questions about trimming, if I trim my curly ends or if I plan to trim my curly ends. No, I've never trimmed them. Do I plan to? No, but if it comes down to it, would I? Maybe, if they start to look a little like thin on the ends, I guess due to breakage over time. But like I said, I touch them so infrequently now that I don't see it being necessary. They're still just as full as they were when I started. I don't see trimming being a thing for me. If that's something that you decide to do, that's fine. If your ends start to look like they need a trim, by all means do that. A lot of people ask me if I ever do plan to trim, will I comb out more of my ends? Probably not. If I do end up trimming ever, it'll probably just be at the length that I chose to trim it at, because I don't really want to manipulate my locks at all. So I don't see myself really ever combing out anymore. If that's something that you decide to do, by all means, like, do that. Just be mindful of, like, you know, how much you're combing out. And obviously, like I always say, do what's best for you and what you feel comfortable doing. I've never found trimming them to be necessary for me, but that doesn't mean that I would never be necessary especially depending on how much you use a comb to detangle and how much breakage you have. Another thing I want to get into is curly ends hate. It sounds ridiculous, but it is something that I experienced and something that I went through. I don't know if it's a texture thing. I don't know if it's a traditional lock thing. I don't know what it is, but if you're sharing your journey on social media, just prepare for some comments. I've obviously been an influencer and doing my thing on social media for a while now, so like the negative comments don't bother me anymore. I kind of just use them for content, but just be mindful of that. You're gonna get some people hating on you. You're gonna get people hating on your journey regardless, but having the curly ends just puts a little sauce on it. Other than that though, that's really it. I love my curly ends. I don't see myself ever cutting them, getting rid of them. At this point, they won't lock on their own anymore. And it took me about, I wanna say, a year and a half in to realize that they were starting to kind of train themselves and I didn't have to really do too much to them anymore. I'm 3 years in now and it's way easier. Like, I don't even think about them half the time. So as you go through your journey, they really do start to become a part of your lock and they become easier and easier to deal with. Just be prepared for that initial start because it is tough. And I'm just being honest with you. It's gonna be hard, it's gonna be stressful, it's gonna be frustrating. I know a lot of people who wanted to keep their curly ends going, but just couldn't maintain it. They couldn't keep up with it, and it gave them the essence of dealing with their loose natural hair, and it just like, you gotta be committed to it, you really do. So if it's something you wanna do, just be prepared. It is worth it in the end. I'm not gonna lie to you, it is very, very worth it in the end. I love it. I love the feel of the femininity it brings to my locks. It accentuates some of my hairstyles that I do, some of my lock styles that I do. So to me, it is everything. And if I were to ever start my locks over or comb these out, or I would do it all over again. Am I ever gonna comb my locks out? Probably not, but I'm just saying, like, that's how worth it is to me, that if I were to ever start again, I would choose to do the curly ends again. So that's all I got for y'all for this one. If you have any other video topics you want me to touch on, drop them in the comments below. Just feel free to give me any ideas and I got y'all. All right, see you in the next one.